Hey there, friends. Welcome to Real Life Conversations for Christian Coaches. I'm Teresa McCloy.
And I'm Erica Vinson. We're so grateful that you're listening in. Here on the podcast each week, we want to have real conversations to help you grow successful and sustainable businesses and yet still stay grounded in what truly matters.
We come each week to share practical tools, honest conversations, and our own experiences as coaches, as well as inviting some great guests onto the show to support you and help you as you live from rest, not rush.
So, whether you're just getting started or have been coaching for years, you have come to the right place. Let's dive into today's conversation.
So we are still in the series. We've been here all summer and it feels like, yeah, we've been here all summer, but this is such a good series as we look at the 7 Ps of having a great coaching practice. The 7 Ps of business is what we call them. And we are down to number 6. So we have gone through purpose, we've gone through plan, we've gone through products and services, particulars, processes, and today we're going to talk about people and what does it mean to have people in your business, one of the P's. And so we have 3 different ways we're going to look at it. But before we dive in, Erica, let's tell them where they can get the resource that goes with this series.
Yes, if you're just joining us, make sure you go to the reallifeprocess.com/7, SEVEN, and we spell real life with 1 L.
Yep, it's a great resource. It will take you through all 7. It has worksheets inside of there. It's actually a pretty hefty, as I was looking at it today, all the pages that are in it, but it will outline everything we've talked about as you can go back and listen to those podcasts if you're diving in with us and have found us again here in the middle of this series. But let's look at what does it mean to have people in your business? And there are 3 buckets that we've bucketed these into. First is our clients, an obvious one, clients or customers, whatever you would call them. And second one is your vendors. And if you are a solopreneur, you might be like, how does that one relate to me? But we'll get into that here as we go through the episode. And the third one is your team. And again, you may be a solopreneur and you may be in the first 1 to 3 years of business. You don't yet have a team. You may be, though, starting to think about, would I bring on someone as a virtual assistant that would be a part of my business and do some things for me? And what would I want to consider or look at? The other thing I want to say here, many of you coach with people who are leaders. And as you coach with them, when you take in the information from this podcast, maybe it will be helpful for you as you even think in your coaching. Oh, when I'm listening to my client, are they talking about situations with their clients, with their vendors, or with their team? All of these are very common if you're coaching someone in the business space. So you can put on both hats today. You can put on your own hat. And then you can also think about, wow, when I'm listening with a client and asking some really great questions around this, how does this come in and be applicable for me? So, Erica, when you think about these, even as a coach, what do you think about?
I always introduce myself when we're in real life process events and those types of things and say, I love working with the people behind the process. And so this P is important. And without it, especially if we're in a helping profession, we wouldn't really have a business. And so I love going back to the scripture, even looking at Romans 12:10, where it says, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. And that's one of our guidelines for engagement is lead with love. And so people matter to God clearly, and we want to bring people into that honoring space as well. And so it's important, obviously for me, I just made the statement earlier today. I'm okay with having transactional conversations, but I love having transformational conversations. And we
Yeah.
can connect with people. That's possible.
Yeah. And both come up in our lives, but the connection piece, when you get to serve your clients, when you get to have a relationship with your vendors and your team, it just takes you to a different place. So yeah, people matter to God. So People matter in our businesses and in the work that we do. Another word that I often think of around this, I was actually just teaching this content to some of our local clients that I work with yesterday. And there is a reputation piece that goes into the P of people. So, the reputation that you have with your team, whether it's onboarding them or offboarding them, what's the reputation that follows you? The reputation you have with your clients, that the biggest compliment they can pay is when they want to come back and work with you again after you've maybe closed out a contract with them or an engagement where you've been coaching together for 6 months or so and you take a break and they come back. Or even with vendors that want to serve you well when maybe you ask for something at the last minute or you have a problem and they help you solve it. But because of the relational reputation that you have, you've got equity in those relationships. So this is one of our favorite topics, is the transformational and the transactional that we get to do with people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that relational equity is huge. And I was thinking of the word referrals too. When they come back, it's a compliment. Also, when they refer you, whether it
Mhm.
is a client or a vendor, hey, I work with this coach. And so I want to recommend them because I have the honor in serving their business as a vendor, or there's someone on your team that can recommend as well. So those
You're
referrals
right.
are,
Referrals and reputation come into
yeah,
play here.
so good.
No, well, let's break these down just a little bit, Erica. Let's first look at clients. Pretty obvious that clients are a part of your business and fall into the category with the people. But a client or a customer is anyone who purchases something from you. Now, depending on how you set up your coaching practice, you obviously have sessions or packages or things that they could purchase. You may even already have some products that they could purchase from you. So anything that you're doing, that transaction with them, they qualify as a client. So that relationship you have, that excellent service, if they order something from you or it's a free download even, or something that's maybe an introductory offer and there's an exchange of goods and services, even that free download is an exchange, right? It's their email, which is super important to them. It's their inbox that they're saying yes to the free guide, the video, whatever. If that doesn't come through, if that doesn't work, if your workflow is not set up, that's that reputation piece that you've just made. So, what are some things around this client area that we might want to consider?
Well, to ensure that those things flow smoothly, we're going to go back to a P we've talked about is process. And so we want to have processes for tracking our clients and keeping that information confidential when we're serving for those that are purchasing services or goods from us. We also want to have a process of retention. And so, what does that look like? How, and you mentioned a couple of different ways. You can sell individual sessions, you can sell packages, but how do you even, at the end of a client's agreement, how are you actually giving them an opportunity to retain and to continue to move forward with you? And then also, what's your process for communicating with your
Mhm.
client? Yeah, as you hear those three things, what's coming top of mind for you?
Well, I know you and I, from our own coaching experience, one of the communication things that we've had to figure out, and it's always a journey, is calendaring. And how are we using calendar communication? And as your business grows and you have more clients on your calendar, there's always a trust process of letting the scheduler work for you or trying to book in advance. One of the things that I've really grown in, and in the beginning, I was afraid to do this in my first few years, is to communicate to a client that my schedule was too tight
Mm,
and to reach out. And you and I have both done this now, where somebody might book a month in advance, or maybe I've even set up something with them. And then something else comes along, not a better opportunity, but you can
I
just
lost your
see,
audio. I
really.
heard something else comes along and then it just went totally mute.
Hmm, that's weird.
Okay, you're back.
Okay.
So
And then,
something else comes along, boom.
and something else comes along, and it's not something that's better.
Mm,
It's just something that you can tell it's gonna be too tight. You can see that you need drive time or you need something. And I've become so much more confident to reach out if it's far enough in advance and say to that client, could we move to one of these two options or one of these two options? Because I want to show up as my best self. And so just trusting your communication, that you're being authentic, that you're being real, and that you communicate through chosen methods that you've decided in advance. There
Yeah.
are some clients I didn't think I would ever text with clients, but I do because that's sometimes what they prefer. And that's the best way for me to get a hold of them. Or they'll say, could you just text me? So I'm serving them. So I do. For the most part, I use email, even as a follow up and a backup. But that's one of them is that communication piece with clients is a place that I've really had to grow in my own trust that I'm not going to lose them just because I asked them to move to a different time.
And I think just becoming comfortable with, as you said, are you using electronic scheduler? Are you doing it in person on the phone? I do it both ways with my private client
Mhm.
schedule on the phone in the moment. When I coach for real life process, we use an electronic scheduler, but I'm comfortable with both because I've set those time blocks and we'll talk more about that. I know
Yeah.
other spaces, but it provides some guardrails that allow both to serve my business well.
It reminds me too of a story. You and I have both coached with our friend Cheryl Scanlon. And Cheryl had set up some processes with her clients when both of us did coaching with her. You did not receive an invoice from Cheryl till the end of the month after she had done whatever session she was going to do because she knew she had some health issues. And you knew when you came on board with Cheryl that there might be a last minute time that she would have to cancel your session, even within that day or whatever, due to some things she was dealing with in that season of life. And you and I both wanted to coach with her bad enough that we're like, we'll take the risk, right?
Absolutely.
But that was something that she communicated with her clients upfront. You knew. So I always go back to what's the agreement that you have? What's the contract that you have? And if there's anything like that you need to put in, maybe you only want to coach over the phone. Maybe you want everything to be on Zoom and you don't want to do over the phone. I still love to get to coach over the phone and no video. It's just yeah, it's relaxing to me. So, all of those things are part of communication and tracking and retention. Just thinking through this is your business. You get to build it in the ways that you would like, on the days that you would like to serve your clients well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with that retention piece, this step process too, and you mentioned it with lead magnets or free downloads, those are certainly available. But how often, in a process, are you going back and even touching base with people who you served? And whether it's every 90 days, whether it's once every 6 months, whatever feels comfortable for you, but what is your process just to go back and even to be generous and say, hey, I thought of you. I'm sharing this with you and no strings attached. There's no asks. It's just clearly to say, I see you and I was just thinking about you.
I just had a client yesterday that is a health coach, and she was talking about this exact thing of needing a process to reach back out. She said, I have 50 or more clients, maybe 100 or more that I've worked with in the past 5 years.
Mm.
And I want to reach out and serve them. I don't want to be annoying or whatever. And we just talked through, we actually did a little mind map around it and we talked through how often feels good. And she came up with, I think quarterly would feel good to me. And I said, if I had worked with you in the past and you sent me something once a quarter with some information in it, checked in with me, gave me something maybe updated that you were doing, I would not feel, if I didn't want to, I could delete, I could unsubscribe, but I would not feel overwhelmed or pushed or whatever, but I would know you were still in business. And that's
Mhm.
something we have to remember about retention. When we're working the way that most of us work as coaches, we don't have a billboard out there. We don't have a storefront out there, most of us. So, how will people know unless you tell them that you're still in business? So, that retention piece. So, there's more to this clients than just how do I get more? Some of the easiest clients to get back on your books are people that you've actually worked with before. So, don't leave out that. Erica, let's look at the next one.
Yes. The next group that we're going to focus on is vendors. And so a vendor is really someone, it could be an individual or a company that provides you as a business owner with goods or services. So this could be swag that you're thinking about for your business. Maybe there are materials that you order specifically that serve your clients, but it's an actual person who's delivering raw materials for your products and keeping it could be someone that's keeping your IT running too. But yeah, what else about vendors comes to
Well,
mind?
we were talking about this earlier, and I think there's two sides to the vendor thing. There's those that you might deal with locally. You might get some things printed. You might have, like you said, swag. You might deal with someone that's your attorney or a local CPA that you work with. All those, when I say vendors, they're people that supply you with goods or services to help keep your business running. So it's this circle that you have. The other piece of that is all these online subscriptions that we use for our business. So whether that's a payment method that you might use, whether that's client tracking, email list provider, something like storage like Dropbox or Google, all of those are pieces that eventually you're going to have a login and you're going to have a password. And that may be the only connection you ever have. You don't ever have a live person that you're dealing with, that you need that to work and to function and be supportive.
Mm.
In the handout that we have, one of the boxes we have here is, where are you storing that information? Where does it feel safe for you? Where does it feel accessible? If something were to happen that you couldn't work in your business for 2 weeks, a month, whatever, would someone know where to access those things and be able to step in and communicate for you or pay the bills or whatever it might be? To me, there's two sides to the vendor. There's the relational that we love. And I'm one who believes in supporting small business in my local community. So I try really hard to work in that space as much as possible. But then there's definitely the technology side of this as well.
Yes, and anytime you can actually have a relationship that you cultivate, especially in the local space, you're actually supporting their business by
Mhm.
purchasing from that vendor. So you can be a referral for them. And then in turn, often they will refer for you as well. So it's a we win commitment when you're actually in relationship with the vendors that you work with.
It absolutely is, and I do a lot of that. As you know, we get swag from a local advertising vendor here that can make me just about anything and everything that I would want if I wanna send swag to people. We get some things printed locally, and I have found exactly that. When I do business with them, I have the opportunity to tell them about my business. So when you're thinking of, where do I get clients? Start being a business, start doing business in your local community, and you will be surprised what might come out of that, that they take you serious because they see you doing business. So I know that's been the result for me in this vendor space for sure.
Absolutely. And even if they're local, I think it opens an opportunity for a conversation to say, who's your ideal client?
Yeah.
Because just because they're local for you doesn't mean that they won't serve someone else online. So the more that you know, you're just really
Mhm.
building a great catalog to be able to share with others and other coaches that are building businesses to say, hey, I know someone and I trust this person. And that goes miles.
Yeah, because we know in this world we can work with just about anybody from anywhere because of the way we have set up our businesses. Well, let's look at the very last category. We've talked about clients, we've talked about vendors, and now let's talk about teams. And again, this may not apply to you yet. It may apply to you now, or it may be a hat that you think through, a lens that you look through of how you even listen to clients. So, a team is that business context is a group of individuals who work towards a common purpose. Remember our very first P. So if you're building a team, one of the first things you want to have is, what's our purpose? Because then you can communicate that to your team members. Usually, you do not want to hire someone who's just like you. You want someone who has different skill sets, different experiences, perspectives. I actually talked about you yesterday, Erica, when I was teaching in my local community and I was teaching about people. And I said, Erica and I have worked together for years, but we are very different. I can bring an idea to the table, and Erica's, in her experience and her skills, is going to say, well, what about this? And what about that? You want someone on your team that will ask questions. And it's not that they're questioning you and your leadership or your ability. They're just seeing it through a different lens. So this is not about hiring three more of you. This is about that diversity of skills and experience and perspective, creativity, how they solve problems. All of those things can be a part. And that collaboration, communication, I could talk about team building for a really long time. It's one of my passions, but the success of a business often hinges on the ability of its team to operate cohesively and adapt to that change. So, when we think about teams within the coaching space, a lot of times we're not talking about employers or employees, excuse me. We're talking about a 1099 contractor. Could have a combination of both, but for the most part, you're probably going to be working with a contractor for a number of hours or on a retainer per month. And so, what are the things that we might want to consider in that part of building a team?
Well, the clarity at which you build a team will help it to be a process that expands the work you're able to do rather than constrict and cause you. None of us are looking to micromanage. And so we really want to look for ways to expand our impact and our reach. And so you want to have a clear scope of work for every position. And so even if you're considering, I might be, and you use that word yet, I love that. That's growth mindset language of you may not be ready for a team member yet, but if you were, what would that role look like? Who are you looking for? And so having that to be clear. Also, then once you do have a team, even if it's just you and one other person, set up clear communication processes. How will you communicate so that it is a work conversation? What do you use for personal? If you're friends also and have a dual relationship, our team works through that.
Yeah.
When are the times that your business is off so that there is a respect and honoring of time? We have worked through that as a team. How do we honor Sabbath from a faith space? And so many different things are important about that communication process. And then what's the regular rhythm of review? So you want to hear the voices of those people on your team. If you're only telling them what you need from
Mhm.
them, you're not able to hear what they see. And that really is the gift of team is to be able to hear what everyone sees, expand your perspective. And as you said, it's that collaborative work.
Yeah, I think those three things: get clear scope of work. How are you going to communicate with each other in the day to day? And what are the day to day boundaries? And then what's the regular review process? And I would say when you're thinking about, am I ready yet for a team member? When you and I first started working together, I think it was 5 hours a week. And so, what could someone do 5 hours a week? Start to look at what are the repetitive things I do. Again, this goes back to processes. So, if you have an onboarding process or you have an email process that you send out, what if somebody else was doing some of those things? What are tasks that are don't bring you energy or joy? I often say, what are the things that only you can do? I said this to a client yesterday, actually. I did some coaching with one of my private clients and we were talking about this. What are the things only you can do? And some of the systems and processes do not bring her joy. And I'm like, what if someone else set those up for you?
Yeah.
And it's just, oh, I never thought I could hire somebody one time for maybe a 90-day commitment to get these things set up on the back end, and then I could keep them going. And so there's all kinds of ways that you might add someone to your team for a very small amount of time or to take on a role. We have I have people now on my team after almost 10 years in business, crazy enough, that actually coach for me. So Erica's one of those. She coaches for our coaches that are in our program. And so there's lots of levels and places that you might eventually build team. And I would just challenge you to dream a little bit about what might be possible and how much value those people might add. The other thing I would say personally for me is I always knew I did not want to work alone. And
Mm.
I didn't want to come to a place where I was going to go work for somebody else again just so I could be in community. So I brought on team fairly quickly because I work better. I'm a verbal processor. I like collaboration. So know yourself and just pray about When is it right for me to find the most joy in the work I do? Now, others of you may be going, I don't ever want a team of people. I love working solo. I doesn't bother me at all. And that's totally okay too. But don't say, oh, people are going to think I'm a big deal if I go hire someone. No, if you enjoy that, it's life giving for you. Collaborate and just be clear about what their role is and what your role is, and enjoy the journey of having people on your team.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid also, if you are even actively discerning, bringing someone on to say, I'm actively discerning this. And I would love to talk to you about what this might look like for us to work together for 6 months. And then for us to review this and see how's it working for you? How's it working for me? What challenges are we noticing? And be able to review it to give you a clear point in your relationship to say, yeah, we're actually, thanks. That was a great opportunity. We're going to go separate ways, or we're going to keep moving forward. And here's the path.
That's why it's important what you brought up there to have that scope of work that's for a period of time. So that whether it's, I always start with 3 months and then you can go to 6 months and then to a year, but not locking yourself into this is till one of us decides that with a good scope of work and actually from some legal perspectives and everything, it contracts have a start date and an end date. So make sure when you're thinking about a team that you do some checking in your state as to what a 1099 contractor looks like so that you're just above board on all the things that you set up with your team. So we've covered a lot in this conversation. We've covered clients, we've covered vendors, we've covered team. And I would say for me, of all the P's, there's some of them that stand out more than others. And this is one of my top three that I love. There are some that I'm more gifted at and I like more than others. They all belong, but the people ranks right up there for me as well. But what are some things to consider, Erica, as we wrap up this conversation?
Well, as you're reflecting, just who is on your support team for your business? And you may be thinking, well, I don't have a team, but who are you working with? Maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a consultant, maybe it is an accountability partner or someone that you meet regularly with as a mentor that's just helping to be a sounding board, to look at your materials, to notice how they're relating. And what are you hearing for clients as well? It's not our clients' responsibility to affirm the work that we're doing, but you will learn a lot when you start listening to your people and listening to your clients or your vendors that you're working with and your team that can help to support your business.
Yeah. Again, one of my favorite P's, I probably find more beautiful moments. You heard me refer to several of them today because I was just working in my local space yesterday and I love working with my local clients and I got to do some coaching and some teaching and training there. And those are just the moments that the people P gives us a lot of those. So I just encourage you as you go through the rest of your week, as you've listened to this podcast, to just notice those because every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. And as a coach, as a spiritual director, as a helping professional, you will find so many extraordinary moments in the relationships that you have with people.
Have a great week, everyone.